everyone to take their time out of the evening to join us in this virtual public meeting for Tuckerman Lane Sidewalk and Bikeway project. As a reminder, if you can please continue stay muted for the time being and have your camera turned off. That way we can ensure a smoother virtual meeting for everyone here. And we will begin with a short presentation, and we ask that you keep the questions and comments until the very end. We'll open up the floor for everyone to have a chance to ask their questions or voice their concern. So just hang tight. We'll get started with the presentation. So again, welcome everyone to the virtual public meeting for Tuckerman Lane Sidewalk and Bikeway project. And this project is for segment 1. The project limits is between Falls Road and to the Snickden branch. So next slide. There you go. So we're all learning how to conduct a virtual community meetings right now. So just please bear with us. We appreciate you just taking the time to join us tonight. We're going to go over some basic control to help you use the Zoom meeting format before we start the actual presentation. So please note that this meeting is being recorded. The video will be posted on the project website after the meeting. And if you do not wish to have your voice or likeness recorded, please keep your camera off and refrain from asking questions using the audio option. Instead, you can send your question via the chat option. Okay, so just a little bit about how you use Zoom for the purpose of our meeting. Everyone is muted here. You cannot unmute yourself, but we can unmute you during the Q&A time. To request to speak, you'll need to use the raise hand feature. And once we unmute you, you will still need to click a pop-up menu to unmute yourself. And if you have called in by phone, you can unmute yourself by dialing *6 once we unmuted you. So video, your camera should be off by default. And to ensure adequate bandwidth for this meeting, we request that you please keep your camera off during the meeting. So in terms of how to ask a question via text, if you have a question during the presentation, please send it via chat. And to send a chat, click the chat at the bottom of the menu. In the to field, change the dropdown to Corey Pitts with a parenthesis, send questions to me. Corey is the one who will be help us to facilitate the Q&A session. And you can just simply type your question in there and hit enter to send it. If you'd like to speak, to ask the question or make a comment, please raise your hand during the Q&A period. To raise your hand, click the participant at the bottom menu. Click the blue raise hand button. And if you have dialed in by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand. And finally, to change your view so that you only see the people with cameras on during the presentation, you can change it by clicking this up arrow next to the start video. Select video setting and make sure to the hide non-video participants is checked right here. So this is a setting box. And then once you hit video, you can check the hide non-video participants to make sure that you only see people with the cameras on instead of blank boxes. Okay, so we'll have a brief introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Angel Chang. I am the project manager for this Tuckerman Lane Sidewalk and Bikeway project. We welcome everyone again tonight for joining us for the public meeting. We also have some staff from our other agency, the Park and Planning and Maryland State Highway. And at this point, I would like to ask if there are any elected officials or representatives that are here. If you can raise your hand you're representing any elected officials. Couple seconds. No? Okay. That's okay. So we'll get started with the presentation. So again, my name is Angel Chang. I am the project manager for this project. Just a little bit of outline for tonight's meeting. We'll talk a little bit about the project overview. We'll go over some of the design considerations in developing this project. We'll talk about the preliminary design that we have put together so far. We'll go through the impact analysis summary, just talk about what does it mean in order to build this project. We'll go through, talk about the next steps, what's going to happen after tonight's meeting, and then we'll open up the floor for everyone to ask the questions or make the comments. And tonight's meeting outcomes, really, it's just to share the preliminary designs with the community and to collect feedback from the community and see what you guys think about our project and to answer any questions that you might have. Okay. So a quick project overview. This is Tuckerman Lane from Falls Road to Snickden Branch, which is a segment 1 of our Tuckerman Lane sidewalk and bikeway project. The scope of the project is to provide a shared use path along the north side of Tuckerman Lane, provide a sidewalk along the south side of Tuckerman Lane, as well as on-road bike lane in both directions. We're also looking at how we can improve drainage and put in the stormwater management facilities as well. This project is not currently funded for final design or construction. Okay, so a little bit about the milestone schedule. We're currently in preliminary engineering, also known as the facility planning phase 2. And in this phase, we have a selected alternative from phase 1, which the county council have identified and recommended the selected alternative. We're in a phase where we are moving this project towards a preliminary engineering phase, which is also known as the 35% design. This project, again, is not funded for final design or construction yet, but we would like to hear from the community. As you can see, we collect the public input throughout the whole stretch of the project. Okay, so some of the design considerations for this project, obviously safety. We're considering safety improvement for all users, which include pedestrians, cyclists, and as well as drivers. We are looking into the right-of-way and property impacts as a result of this project. We looked at providing lighting for these facilities, utility poles and fire hydrant that is lining along Tuckerman Lane. And obviously there are trees on both sides of the road. Drainage and stormwater management is a huge one for us when we are working on this project, as well as pavement usage and buffer and transit and bus stops. So at this time, I will pass it over to our consultant, Mark.
Yep. Thanks, Angel. I can go to the next. There you go. So hello, everybody. I'm Mark Bodman. I'm project manager for Wallace Montgomery and Associates, working with the county on this project. Just want to go through a little bit of the existing conditions, and then kind of look at what we looked at from the phase 1, and then where we came to after that, after looking at some of the impacts. So the existing section, you can see here, it's typically a 2-lane roadway with shoulders and open section. For non-engineer speak people, that just means that the roadway drains to ditches along the side of the road, and that's where the stormwater drainage goes to. There is street parking on both sides, utilities lining both corridors, as Angel said, and there are some sections with sidewalks and some sections without. So we were looking at trying to upgrade this. Next slide. So from the phase one, what they looked at implementing was maintaining the 2 travel lanes through there, adding bike lanes, and still providing the open section with the drainage swales, with a shared use path on the north side and a sidewalk along the south side. We would maintain parking along the north side as well, and all that would try to get fit within the right of way. And that's where we kind of picked it up and started looking at some of the impacts. So next slide. So when we looked at various options for the typical section after we looked at the impacts, and what we found was that section with the open section was really pushing things out a lot, and it was impacting the properties along the Tuckerman Lane roadway. And what we wanted to maintain the section with the roadway through lanes, the bike lanes, and sidewalks. So we want to maintain all the features, but we also wanted to minimize impacts to right of way. We wanted to minimize impacts to the utilities poles that were along there. So what we looked at doing was actually closing the section, and that just means installing curb and gutter, so we could squeeze everything in within that existing right of way. We would maintain a buffer wherever possible of about 5 feet. Be able to maintain the 10-foot bike lanes, the parking lanes, and everything with that closed section, and maintain and have the ability to not impact the properties as much. Next slide.
Hi, I'm Scott Rose with Wallace Montgomery. Mark and I have been working on this together. And this is the overall plan view, which is similarly posted on the website. And what this shows are, it's a comparison of the cross sections at a few locations. It's difficult to see on screen, but we picked 2 spots that we'll compare on the next slide. One here with the yellow highlighted area, and one here. Next slide, Angel. So here they are. This section, cross section BB, is at the western edge of the project, and section DD is the eastern end. The green is existing conditions. Blue is the open section design, which was the 15% design from the phase 1 study. And red is the closed section, which we are proposing. And what you could see, if you look on the left of section BB, you can see where the limits are. The limit of grading, the blue line, is further left, further up the slope than the red one. And that idea is demonstrated on these sections in both areas. So as Mark said earlier, that brings things a little bit closer, reduces the impacts up the hills and to people's properties, utility impacts, and even the driveways. There are a lot of driveways that have steep slopes on them. Trying to put the sidewalk up the driveway, or the shared use path up the driveway, exacerbates or increases the amount of impacts that could be felt on those properties. Putting it down near the edge of road, it's a little flatter there, and the grading works out much better so that those impacts don't reach as far. Next section. So we did a comparison between the open section design and the closed section design, preliminary conceptual level here. And it is true that we would expect to see a reduced impact, from 4 acres to about 2/3 of an acre. Trees would be reduced, utility pole impacts would be reduced. And the cost, even though we're adding more curb and gutter, or it's the whole thing would have curb and gutter, and increasing some of the storm drain facilities that would have to be put in, the overall cost, we believe, would be less. If you look down at the bottom there, it'd be about a $2 million savings, because the impacts, the cost of the impacts, the easements, is being greatly reduced. We have about a little bit less than $500,000 increase in the construction cost, but we think that we would realize about $3 million in savings because of the easements. Next one. Back to you, Angel.
Oh, thank you, Scott and Mark. So let's talk about a little bit about next step real quick. So we'll be collecting feedback from the community through November 30th. And you can submit your comments via a online comment form, and the URL is tinyurl.com/Tuckerman-comments. You can also use the interactive web app, as some of you have already used on our project website. You can email it to us, or you can send us a traditional mail to the address as shown on the screen. After tonight's meeting, and after we have collected all the feedback from you guys and the rest of the community, we'll move forward with towards a 35% design, and that includes the engineering design as well as the stormwater management concept. And once we have completed that milestone, we will submit this project for the parking planning, the county planning board for their mandatory referral review. So with that said, so here's, we will open up the floor for any questions or comments. If you would like to ask a question or make a comment, please raise your hand, or you can also type into the chat box. I'll leave my contact info here, so you can put it down, you can jot it down, and I'll leave the project website URL here, as well as the online comment form. You can go and fill it out. So let's see. So I'm opening up the floor. If you would like to ask questions or make comments, please raise your hand. Again, you can raise your hand with the function in the Zoom. It's on the bottom of the screen.
Angel, we have a couple of questions already appeared in the chat.
Okay.
The first one is a question about what was the reasoning, probably starting back with the facility planning phase 1 study, for having a shared use path and bike lanes on the same side of the street, especially when the bike lane is too narrow to be safe adjacent to car parking.
Yes. Yes, so we have been working with our counterparts at Park and Planning during our phase 1 design, phase 1 planning, and we have worked with them on making sure this project is complying with what the county bicycle master plan is recommending for. So for this particular segment of Tuckerman, the recommended bicycle facility is a shared use path on the north side and the on-road conventional bike lane on both sides in both direction. And the design is based on this standard. What was the second part of the question, Corey? I didn't hear.
Question about the width of the bike lane in relation to being next to a car parking lane.
Okay. So let me back up a little bit to the. Okay, so currently we're proposing a 6-foot bike lane and 8-foot parking, which is compliant to the what the bicycle master plan has recommended, and also because this stretch of Tuckerman Lane is mainly residential, as well as fronting 2 schools. So the turnover rate for for the parking here is quite low. So we believe that that's appropriate treatment. So,
And there was a question from Gordon regarding why regarding the right of way, the 42-foot curb width, and why are we using 10-foot, or why are we using 11-foot travel lanes rather than 10-foot travel lanes, and a 8-foot parking lane rather than a 7-foot parking lane? And the answer to that, I believe, is the the county standard for this roadway shows an 11-foot lane. We typically don't like to do 10-foot lanes unless it's in a business district downtown. 10-foot travel lanes are very, very narrow. There's issues with trucks going past there and not having enough room, and it's also drivers. It's uncomfortable for drivers. And again, the 8-foot is the standard and the 11-foot is the standard. That's not to say that things can't get tweaked, but that's where we're at now. And I think at this point we would rather show, it's easier to reduce than it is to increase down the road. So.
Another question related to kind of schedule and funding. How and when will the project be funded?
So currently this project is not funded for final design or construction yet. Once we have finished the 35% design and submitting this project for the planning board's mandatorial review, then we'll recommend this project to the county council for as a standalone CIP, and from there the county council will kind of decide when this project will be moved forward and when it will have funding. So
great. There are a number of questions piling up in the chat, but I'll let you go to the. It looks like you got 2 people who have raised their hands.
Okay, so we'll start with Gordon Chaplin. Sorry. Hold on one second. I have unmuted you.
Yeah, hi, thank you. My name is Gordon Chaffin. I'm a transportation reporter. You, regardless of the classification of this facility, you have 42 feet of right-of-way. And I'm just very confused. I follow the Vision Zero discussion. I follow the Complete Streets discussion. And 10-foot wide lanes are fine all over the DMV. It complies with COG stuff, and it's just not true that 11 feet is the minimum necessary for most traffic. Is this a heavy bus corridor? Like unless you have regular heavy traffic, that 10 feet is fine, and parking is also fine at 7 feet. So I just don't understand why you're not taking those few extra feet and flipping those lanes, because if there are schools in this route, you're going to have, young children riding it in a bike lane that's only protected by paint there. That's not safe for all ages and abilities.
Thank you for your comments, and we'll definitely look into it a little bit more. But at a preliminary design, we have to look at what is in our schedule, what has been recommended to us, and we'll definitely look into it. And in terms of building the facility that is fitting for all ages, we are also proposing a shared use path on the north side, which is along the side where the schools are. And so, if people are not feeling safe to bike on road, we're definitely providing an alternative for those people. But we'll look into it more. Thank you for your comment. All right. And then next, we have Jerry Garson. Mr. Jerry Garson, I have unmuted you. Whoop. Let's try it again. There you go.
This is Jerry Garson. I would like to just comment on the previous speaker's thing. This is an extremely heavy bus route. We have probably literally over 100 buses a day using this because it's right near Churchill High School, which has about 30 or 40 buses when school is in session. Cabin John Middle School has a huge number of buses, and there are private schools that have school buses and that. This is an extremely heavy bus route, and if you want to have accidents with school buses, first have the school buses put seatbelts in so when they do have head-on crashes, the kids don't get killed. I mean, it's just the stupidest street to ever pick for having narrow lanes on it. Unless you want to close the schools permanently. At the moment, we don't have too many school buses. It's also very close to, on Westlake Terrace and Tuckerman, right north, south of Tuckerman Lane, you have a major school bus depot that literally has probably a couple of hundred school buses, and they regularly use Tuckerman Lane. My next part of the question is, can you have the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission actually build their part of the project between Angus Place and the Cabin John Regional Park? I know the Parks Department wants as many cars to go there as possible, but basically from my house, it's impossible to walk there safely because you do not have any sidewalk leading to the park. I know there are 997 parking spots, and they prefer to use parking rather than walking to the park. And the other question is, have you considered providing for underground power lines? Because right now, between Angus Place and basically all the way to Old Georgetown Road, Pepco is actually putting in underground power lines right now, and they're digging up the whole place. So if you're going to do this, you might want to put in conduits for them so they wouldn't have, so they can put these power lines underground, which they're in the process of doing in this area. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So just to respond to the part where you're talking about the Cabin John Park connection, our project actually for segment 3 is where we'll talk about putting in pedestrian facility as well as bicycle facility that will connect to the park. So that part is upcoming. It's the next part of this project. So we'll be working with our counterparts at at parks to work on this issue. And in regards to the utilities, we will be working with Pepco and to figure out if they're going to be also burying the conduits underground for this segment. And if that's the case, then we'll definitely be coordinating with them throughout the project to make sure that, you know, if that will give us a little bit more space, and, you know, making sure that we're not putting in things and so that they will pick it up back up right after. So we'll be coordinating with Pepco on that. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Angel. Let's see, next question I have in the chat is, with parking only on one side, how will that be safer for car owners who have to cross the street to get to their car?
Yes, so we are working with, we're working with our traffic division to identify location where we can add a little bit of crosswalk, identify a safe spot for people to have to cross Tuckerman Lane. And we are, you know, we'll look into it, and so that, you know, it'll be a safe crossing for people who have to park on one side of the street and have to walk over. So, okay.
Great.
Next.
Next question I have is, what is the design for transit?
What is the design for transit? Oh, okay. So, so with transit, obviously we'll be working with our counterparts at Department of Transit Services with the ride-on buses to make sure that the bus stop are being put in, and an adequate bus pad will be provided, so that, you know, it'll be enough room for people who are waiting for the bus or, you know, getting off the bus to safely, you know, get to where they need to be, as well as identifying places where these bus stops are, who might be, where the people might be crossing Tuckerman Lane as well. So we'll be working with transit services and ride-on buses on identifying those locations.
Let's see, next question I have is, during and after construction of the sidewalk, how will parking spaces for Churchill students be affected? There is already a shortage.
That's a very good question. So when this project goes into final design construction, we'll be working with the school, obviously, and, you know, try to figure out what would be the appropriate way to stage this construction. But that doesn't happen until much later. But we'll definitely take note of it and make sure that when we get to the next, the final design phase, that this will be taken into account of. So thanks for this comment. So
Like you got a hand raise. You can, if you want to take that one.
sure. Mr. Brett Leffler, I have unmuted you.
Yeah, hi Angel, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. And thanks for the information on the timeline. I wanted to get, I'm struggling a little bit with what the timeline is here. So are we talking this is like a 10-year in the future type of thing when this would be constructed? Is it something that would happen, start construction 6 months from now potentially? What I know you've talked about it has to go to the county council at some point, but what are the chances that the county council would actually approve this? Is this a 1 in 10 type of thing where these get approved? Do most of these type of projects get approved? If you could talk a little bit about that for me, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. In terms of timing, so we are still at about 20% design right now. So in order to reach 35% design, we have to put in a little more details in our preliminary engineering. We also have to work on our stormwater management concept and get an approval from the Department of Permitting Services of the county. And then throughout the whole process, we will also work with our counterparts and parking planning to identify what are the environmental features that are out there right now, and what does it mean for this project to be constructed. So to take an inventory of what's out there. So in order to complete all those pieces, we're estimating, that 35% design will be, probably done by next year. And that's when we will submit it to the mandatory referral review with the county planning board. And then after that, we can just submit it to the county council. So once it's in get the county council, it really depends on the budget and when that could happen. I'm not really sure at this point. And as all of you know, with the pandemic that is going on, we just don't know when that will be happening. But in terms of what we are funded currently right now, we'll be finishing 35% design next year, and in 2021. Okay.
Let's see, next question that shows up in the chat is there an opportunity for crosswalks and or signals near Deborah Drive and also by the schools?
Yes, so we'll look into these specific spots, and thank you so much for bringing those into our attention. We'll work with our traffic division and to make sure that we look into those that by providing these additional crosswalk and signal and what does it mean, and making sure that what we're designing and putting out there will be safe for everyone to use. So we'll take note of those locations, and we'll work with it with our traffic division on them. Dan?
Oh.
Here you go.
Hello. This is Dan Sheridan. I'm with MCDOT also, and I just wanted to give a little bit more detail on the budget process. So we prepare a 6-year budget every 2 years. And so this is unfunded for final design, but if we put in the next budget cycle for final design would take about 2 years beyond the 35% design. And then there's a right-of-way acquisition phase, which is about another year. So that's about a 3-year process before construction can start. Now that's provided that county council approves all of this, and sometimes based on budget constraints, projects can be delayed by a year or two, or construction can be delayed by a year or two. So it's probably a minimum of 3 years away before construction, and start of construction, and 4 or 5 years away for completing construction, if it's funded.
Thank you, Dan.
I've got another question here. Many of the houses along Tuckerman have driveways made of different surface materials, concrete, asphalt, gravel, etc. What will the surface material be for the shared use path and for the sidewalks?
So the most common material that we use for sidewalk is concrete in the county, and for shared use path, we typically use asphalt, but there are places we have been using sidewalk depending on the what is the most appropriate based on the design, and if it needs to be repaved every couple of years, or if it's a high traffic area. So it depends on several different factors, but for the most part, concretes are used for sidewalk, and for shared use path, we've used both asphalt and sidewalk. So and we'll probably investigate a little bit more about which material to use in the final design phase. So thanks for the question.
Let's do one more and then I'll let you go to the raised hands.
Okay.
Question here, why not continue the sidewalk east to 7 Locks Road? This is a more logical terminus and gets people to Cabin John shopping centers and apartments.
Yes, so we can also look into that. When this project was in phase 1 facility planning, the segmentation was approved by the county council. So we'll look into that. There are existing sidewalk on Tuckerman Lane for a short stretch of linking to 7 Locks, but we'll look into what is missing so that people can reach the Cabin John Shopping Center from the other end. So thanks for that comment. Okay. So we'll go to the ones that have their hand raised. I'm not sure who this is, but I have an iPhone. Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Oh, hi.
Hi. So I think I just noticed someone may have asked this on the written chat, but I don't think it's been addressed yet. What can we do as a community to kind of signal to decision makers at the county level that we're very much in support of this? I'm sure a lot of us have already voiced the fact that this is important for the safety of our children and kids in the area going back and forth to the schools. So what can we do to kind of signal to the county that this is important to us?
Yes, so one of the ways that you can kind of help this project moving along is to obviously provide us your comments, voice that whether you're in favor of it, and also, talking to your elected official. I think that will help. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Cool. And then we'll take one more with Kathleen. Oops. You're unmuted.
Basically, I'm just going to reiterate what the gentleman said before. It's really critical that we get something done, even if it's just a little walkway. It's a big project what you're wanting to do with a lot of money, and it involves so many different parts. Is there some way we could just even have a simple path to walk down, even just on one side of the street, until we get the funds to complete the project? It's basically really dangerous for everybody. Students, people getting on or off the bus, people needing to get outside with COVID since we're in our houses all the day, senior citizens who want to age in place, and it's just critically important.
Yeah, thank you for your comment, and we'll work on this as fast as we can, and we hope to move this project forward too. All right, Corey.
Yep. So next question I see here that you haven't already answered is, can scooters and motorcycles use the bike lanes?
I'm not sure. Corey, do you know the answer to this?
I know that they're not able to use the shared use paths by code. We'd have to look into the bike lanes. I want to say no, but I'm not positive on that. So that would be something we need to look into.
Yeah, we'll look into it and get back to you.
No motorcycles, my God.
Let's see. Is it possible to create a protected bike lane? This would be a great resource to local cyclists.
We can look into it. Again, we are only limited to so much space that we have. So we'll definitely look into a protected bike lane and see if that's feasible with what we have given. And you know, with the space that we have and the fund that we have, you know, the last thing that we want is to really get, you know, put in all the bells and whistles and not being able to build it. But we'll definitely look into what we can do for the on-road bike lane.
Question here. Have you evaluated the safety of cars backing up in the street through the bike lane? Also, have you observed how the bikers use Tuckerman? Rarely do you have one or two bikers at a time riding together. On Saturdays and Sundays, they ride in large groups. I highly encourage you to spend a Saturday or Sunday on Tuckerman to observe this.
Thanks for your comment, and we will take a look at that. And in terms of backing into the driveway, obviously we want everyone to be safe and to take it slow when they're backing out, just like you would at any other places. So, but we'll look into in terms of the traffic that you mentioned. Corey, do you have the next one? Sorry, I don't.
Yep.
Can't see.
There's a question here about, I guess, some more detailed questions about what's going on across from Churchill and the parking there along Tuckerman. If you have details that you can share.
The park. Sorry, can you repeat that? The parking on. Parking
along Tuckerman in front of the school, Churchill.
Okay. Yes. So for the most part, we're keeping parking as it is right now, and we're trying to maintain that stretch of parking. We know that is heavily used, especially on school days and occasionally on weekends where there are sports are being played in the fields on the back of the school. So yeah, we're keeping the parking there as it is.
Okay. There's a question here about if someone wants to see the specific impacts of the project on a specific property, where should they look?
So I mentioned that there is a interactive web app on the project website. You can look into that and see there should be a GIS layer of the property lines as well as what we have proposed. And you can also email me and I can kind of go through it with you also. So send me an email and we can talk about that and I can show it to you too.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Next is more of a comment. Seems like you're trying to accommodate everyone, but the homeowners, you're trying to pack in too many things in such a small space. Now my visitors will have to park across the street versus in front of our house.
Thanks for the comment, and we definitely know that you know, we're all trying to make it safer for everyone who's using this road. So we're taking note of that too.
Let's see, another comment here about the more you can build sidewalks, the better. This makes it safer for people who are unable to drive to be able to access the bus stops.
Yep, thank you for your comment. There's a lot. I'm trying to
comments about
scroll through
Churchill
this.
students.
Okay.
Question here about drainage on the side streets. Can we say anything about impacts to that?
So Scott or Mark, are you guys
Yeah.
back? So if you can talk a little bit about drainage.
So yeah, we are looking at drainage coming off of the side streets and onto Tuckerman, and drainage along Tuckerman itself. Typically we want to make sure that any of the drainage is covered in with inlets or the ditches, depending on which way we go. There's calculations we have to make for spread, which is when it rains, you know, how much water backs up into the travel lanes and whatnot. So we'll be placing inlets usually at the corners of the side streets to capture runoff coming off the side streets, and connecting those with any you know, drain pipes along Tuckerman to carry that water off. I hope that answers the question. But yes, we will be absolutely looking at all the drainage concerns along the roadway.
Great. Let's see. Next question I have here is, how do you deal with essentially the screening trees along a private property? Are you going to replant them?
Yes. So we are first and foremost try to minimize impacts to landscaping as much as possible. And if it is unavoidable, then we will replant them as in kind as much as possible too.
Let's see. Question here about kids walking along Tuckerman, that there's a lot that walk to and from Churchill High School, as well as to and from the Cabin John Shopping Center for lunch and after school. Will the sidewalk path connect those locations?
Yes, as from what I've seen, there are some sidewalk connecting to the Cabin John Shopping Center. So our project will connect to those, and wherever that is substandard or it's a missing connection, we'll definitely look into it, and so that, you know, to ensure this connection is complete. So
next question I see here is, will the bike path connect to a planned Falls Road bike path? What is the update on any plans for the bike path on Falls Road?
or you want to take that?
I was about to say, I can probably address that one. So I think that this project will definitely consider a future connection at that intersection, or at least set up for a future connection at that intersection. In terms of the Falls Road bike path, there is funding identified in the CIP to advance design on that project. And we're just currently working through the procurement process to move forward with that design. So that's the update on that project.
Thanks, Corey. All right.
Let's see, I see a comment here about speeding. Would you be considering speed cameras? People don't pay attention to speed limit signs. So essentially, I guess, you know, what are we doing to address speeding, or to look into addressing speeding?
Yes, so we'll look into putting traffic calming, for crosswalk. We'll look into putting into pedestrian refuge island to kind of pinching in the traveling so that people will slow down as they approach the crossing. And then, we'll look into the overall corridor. And by doing a closed section as opposed to an open section, it will kind of narrow down the kind of the driving feel of sight for this roadway, so that driver will have to slow down on Tuckerman Lane. So we'll definitely look into others traffic calming measures with our traffic division counterpart. So, and I just want to mention that I got a little bit more information in terms of scooter and motorcycles. So electric bikes and scooters are allowed with a maximum speed of 20 miles per hour, but motorcycles are not allowed. So that's to address the previous questions. Okay. So.
It looks like you've got another question here about stormwater management. What level of rain and or flooding will the stormwater management facilities be designed to handle? Within the last couple of years, there have been several water rescues at Snaked In Branch and near Post Office Drive. Essentially the heavy rain events seem to be increasing. So what are we designing to?
Yes, and Mark?
Yeah, I can. Typically we will design to the 10-year storm on the stormwater management facilities. The same with the drainage design, the inlets capture, the 10-year storm, and the pipes are set up so that they can carry the 25-year storm through them without the hydraulic grade line coming up over the top of the pipe. So I know 10 years. A 10-year storm. I don't have the actual numbers, but what we do is we look at the drainage area for the whole area and make sure that we're capturing stuff from all the different land uses. There's overland uses, grass and whatnot, and pavement, and it all depends on the storm intensity and the amount of water that comes in. But the stormwater facilities will be treating that 10-year storm.
Okay.
Thanks,
Mark.
Comment here and a question. Currently, the most dangerous section for cycling, walking along Tuckerman Lane is around 7 Locks, Cabin John Mall, and on the hill directly east of that area. Whether or not the remainder of the project goes forward and when, is there any thought to prioritizing this section of the project?
Yes, so we'll definitely look into this section a little bit more, and hopefully that can be included as part of this project. Again, we want to be able to submit this project to County Council with a fundable project size. So we'll look into it, and we'll share more with everyone when we get to 35% design. So, right.
There's a question here. Someone unfortunately joined us a little late and missed the presentation, so it may make sense to go back. Is there a plan for a separate bike lane and separate walking paths? So maybe going back to one of your slides showing the cross section, Angel might help answer that.
Let me move back. And this presentation is also posted on the project website. So I'll send out the link to everyone who registered for the meeting to the project website also, so that everyone can get to it easily. But here's the typical section for the closed section. We're proposing a shared use path on the north side, 10-foot minimum currently, and an on-road bike lane, 6 foot in each direction. And there's a sidewalk on the south side of Tuckerman. Okay. I'll keep this up for a couple minutes, and then I'll go back to the to contact information. So. You can raise your hand too if you don't want to type in your questions or your
Sorry,
comments.
there are a number of these are repeats as I'm going through them, so I'm trying to find one that we haven't addressed yet.
Okay.
What plans are being made with the groups that use the school fields on weekends? Cars park along both sides from Post Oak to Gainsborough and a ways down each of the side streets. Lots of people moving about. So I guess, again, just a concern about parking along Tuckerman as it relates to the school fields.
Yeah, again, we're keeping parking on the north side, which is on the school field side of Tuckerman Lane, so that hopefully people wouldn't have to cross the street as much. We're keeping parking as the way it is along north side of Tuckerman, and with the addition of a sidewalk and shared use path, we hopefully that will allow parents and their kids who are using that fields for the sports to walk on Tuckerman safely. But we'll work with our traffic division also to identify any spots that where people might be crossing Tuckerman, so that we can provide a safe crosswalk for those people, and make sure that they're visible for the driver. And so yeah, we'll take a look at that.
Question here about have you considered the effect of vehicles turning on and off of Tuckerman as it relates to crossing the sidewalk and the bike path?
Yeah, so I can cover that one, Angel and Corey. Yes, so at each of the side streets, we do what's called a sight distance evaluation to make sure that vehicles can adequately see up the road either direction. The crossings themselves at the side streets, the sidewalks will have crosswalks and ADA ramps to make sure that there's a safe crossing there. So yes, that is taken into consideration, and that is part of our design evaluation. And when we lay out the alignment and the geometry of the roadway.
Thanks, Mark.
Question here about what are we doing when mailboxes are likely to be impacted by the project?
Yes, so if your mailbox will be impacted, we will relocate them and hopefully salvage them and then put it back once the project is constructed. Okay.
Question here regarding bike lane dimensions. Could we adjust the bike lanes on the parking side to 6.5 feet and take that 1/2 foot out of the bike lanes on the other side of the road to be 5.5 to give cyclists a little bit more space from parked cars who might open the door?
So we'll look into that. Again, I know this was brought up multiple times in terms of the on-road facility. So we'll go back and take a look at it and see what we can do. So we'll consider that too.
Question about whether this project's doing anything to address the crossings at Falls Road and as well as trying to cross Seven Locks Road from Gainsborough.
From Gainsborough. Sorry, I'm trying to keep my bearings. So yeah, so we'll work on the look into the intersection that crosses Tuckerman. So that includes Gainsborough and Falls Road and Seven Locks, to make sure that all the pedestrian signal is updated, will be updated to standard. We'll look into the traffic signal there and to make sure it's optimized. And we'll look into the crosswalk as it is and make sure that the striping is up to the current standard. for safe design. So we'll look into those intersections. Right.
Great. Question here, given how busy Tuckerman was any consideration given to directing bikers to Bells Mill Road instead?
So we didn't consider that for this project, but we can look into it. I mean,
the Tuckerman is called out in the bicycle master plan, so we are following what the bicycle master plan is called for in terms of bike facilities on this road. We'd have to look at the bicycle master plan to see what they're calling for, if anything, on Bells Mill Road. I don't know. Is Dave Ansbacher still on the call?
Or raise his hand? Or anyone from planning here? Raise your hand.
Corey and Angel, we actually worked with Dan a little bit on looking at some bicycle facilities along Bells Mill Road, among other roads. So that's still in a planning mindset, and trying to figure out, again, that Bells Mill Road was another one of those roads where it's very tight right away. So bicycle accommodations are something they're looking at on Bells Mill at some point, maybe.
Thanks, Mark.
Mark.
Question here, aren't shared use paths supposed to accommodate bikers as well as walkers? If so, why are there also bike lanes on the road?
Yes, so the bicycle master plan, recommended a shared use path on the north side, which is where the schools are frontages at, so that the facility can accommodate users who are not as confident in as biking on road. So these include students or children or people who are just not as uncomfortable fighting on road. However, this road, we recognize that this road is being used by bicyclists quite often. And so we're accommodating them as well by putting in, bike lane on both sides. And putting it on in two separate directions is to just so that we're separating them from, we're lining them up with the way the traffic is going. So that's why we're providing bike lane on both sides on road, as well as the shared use path.
Question here, will pedestrian signals be audible?
Yes, I believe the ADA standard for the pedestrian signal is audible. But we'll make sure that whatever we're proposing for pedestrian signal will be ADA compliant and up to the standard.
Let's comment here. It's important to separate the bike lane from the walking path. Question, will bus shelters be incorporated into design?
We will work with Ride-On and Transit Services for the bike shelter. I am not sure what are the criteria for putting in bike shelters, but we'll work with them and ask them and see what they say. So thanks for the comment, and we'll follow up with that.
Question here looks, I guess, somewhat related to phasing in terms of construction. Would the plan be to finish the entire length of the south or north shared use path sidewalk before starting construction on the sidewalk shared use path on the other side of Tuckerman? Or would the paths on either side be completed in tandem in sections of Tuckerman before moving on to the next? So I guess it's, will the construction phasing be focused just on one side of the road, or will it just work on both sides of the road, lengthwise?
Yeah, so we're not sure about that yet. That will be explored in the final design phase. And, you know, but by the time we reach there, there will be another public hearing to kind of share this kind of information in terms of construction phasing and sequences. And we want to make sure that, you know, construction is safe and at the same time, provide minimum obstruction to everyone's using this road. So that will be explored more in the final design phase.
Another question about lowering speed limits along Tuckerman.
Yes, so we'll look into that. We'll work with our traffic counterparts who are usually in charge on providing the speed signage on these, and we'll work with them on the visibility of that speed limits and jot it down.
Okay. Comment here about shared use paths and the combination of bikers and peds, that these can be especially challenging for children, persons who are blind, persons who are deaf, and people who can't get out of the way.
Yes, thank you for your comment. And I think we will have to look into what we can do. So, Corey, do you have anything to add?
I think just that we're constantly looking and monitoring the latest improvements in design to make all of our facilities accessible to all users. And we'll continue to do such going forward.
Yeah, and this is a continual process, and we're improving, we're doing better, and we just want to make sure that we're also listening to the community and make sure that what we're proposing are also safe too. So thanks for that comment.
Question here about post office, UPS, and delivery trucks. Will they be able to park along Tuckerman to make deliveries?
Yes. So the parking area is open also, and delivery truck can pull in on park on the side. So Corey, do you have anything to add?
I don't think we're planning any restrictions on the parking. So as long as the parking is available, yes, it'll be open for delivery vehicles and postal trucks and whoever wants to use it. Question about why wasn't keeping parking on both sides of the road considered? Have a sidewalk on one side and a bike path on the other side of the road. It looks like essentially eliminating the on-street bike lanes.
Yeah, so when we're in phase one planning, we were looking into what the master plan has recommended. So our proposed improvement have to start it off with what the master plan has recommended first, and based on the cyclists who use this road and who bike on Tuckerman, and we see there are huge usage on Tuckerman Lane on road biking. And so we're providing that on-road bike lane to accommodate them. And in terms of the parking, again, we want to make sure that we're not impacting homeowner and property owners along Tuckerman Lane. As we're trying to minimize those impacts as much as possible. And if we have to provide parking lane also, it'll expand the impact quite a bit. So I feel like that's a good compromise. So.
Looks like another question here about traffic signal at Deborah and Tuckerman. So maybe they joined a little late. If you want to reiterate what we're doing to look at traffic calming and traffic safety along the corridor.
Yes. Thank you for bringing it to our attention for these locations. We will work with our traffic division counterparts to look into these specific spots where we see people crossing Tuckerman or in need of or have an issue of sight distance. So we'll work with them and to make sure that that we'll what other traffic calming measures would be appropriate and feasible for Tuckerman at this spot. So. Okay.
Question here about who is responsible for shoveling snow on sidewalks.
Yes, so in our counties, the homeowner or the residents who are living in that property with the sidewalk frontage, where the sidewalk is at, that resident will be responsible for shoveling the sidewalk or the facility that is in front of their house.
Looks like you've got a hand raised, Angel.
Yes. I have unmuted you, Trish.
Hi,
Hi.
this is Ellie. I'm from the, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
I am from the Commission on People with Disabilities. We've been extremely active on the working with the county on the various plans. And I just want to raise it to your attention that the master bike plan was put together prior to Vision Zero. And in many instances, they are not compatible in terms of its bikes over people. So I think you need to I just want to raise your awareness to that. Plus there are other plans the county has in place that I think we're up to like 7 different plans and none of them really mesh really well together. So just so that for your awareness that you're looking at that, as you continue to do these designs, the commission would very much like to work with you. We try and approach it from a universal perspective because, you know, not just people who are deaf, blind, or using a wheelchair, but people who move differently, people, you know, looking at the spectrum of people with using service animals, people who have children, you know, young children, people who are using, you know, headphones and on their phone, you know, being distracted. So we're trying to, you know, work with the county very much on helping you with your plans. And so we'd really welcome you to come and talk to us. So thank you.
Thank you for your comment. And we'll be coordinating with you and the commission on this project. So thank you so much. All right.
Yeah, I have a question here. Can traffic light signals be synchronized to all red so that all vehicles are stopped while pedestrians have walk lights and can safely cross? Right now we have a walk signal with a green light in the same direction and vehicles don't stop for pedestrians walking across.
Yes, so that will be with our traffic division. So we'll raise that to their attention, bring that to their attention, and we'll look into it and coordinate with them on this issue. So traffic signal. Okay.
A question about, can there be trash cans along the route? Or I guess where, really, I guess what they're trying to get at is where will people place their trash cans when this is implemented?
Yes, so we ask that you don't put trash can on the facilities, whether it's sidewalk or the shared use path. We are proposing there will be a buffer between the curb and the path, or the curb and the sidewalk. So I think you can put and that area usually is relatively flat, so you can definitely put your trash can or recycling receptacles on the buffer. So as long as it's out of, you know, the what we're proposing, which might obstruct other people who might be using it. So put it on the buffer. Okay. Or
question here about whether the comments and questions are being captured. Yes, all of the comments that everyone has put into the chat this evening will be shared and, or not shared, will be saved and outputted and will be included as part of the report out of this public meeting.
Yes. But also please fill out the online comment form. I'm really appreciate it if you fill that out so that everything will be in the same place. Yes, we'll save everything is on the chat. But this chat doesn't really have your contact info or where you are. We want to make sure that we're capturing your comments correctly. So please fill it out.
Number of comments here just about, seems to be more desire for sidewalks over the bike lane, and given the size of the groups that it sounds like ride, is a bike lane really going to be sufficient? Let's see, a question here about right-of-way. You talked about rights-of-way and easements. Could you clarify, does the county already have easements on all of the properties along both sides of Tuckerman? Do the easements cover the full width needed for the project? Again, I think this might be a perfect time to go back to your cross sections that compared the opened and the closed section.
Let me backtrack. Oops, sorry, too much. Okay.
And then if you highlight kind of the differences of where the right-of-way line falls versus project limits.
Yes, so this is a typical section that we have like kind of extracted so that it's easier for our discussion. So typically for Tuckerman Lane, we have about 80 foot of right-of-way from this for this roadway. And as Scott has talked about during our presentation earlier, the phase one planning typical section proposed an open section, which means that there is no curb gutter and there's a grass well that's coming off, just kind of like how it is right now. But by putting in the facility with that open section, the limit of grading, we saw that is beyond what we have in terms of right of way. So that would mean that the property on this end will be impacted, and same thing on this side. Now we have proposed currently with a closed section, meaning we're putting curb and gutter. That let us put the facility closer to the row, and it'll put the limit of grading a little also closer to the row, and for the most part, it's within the right of way. Now, when it comes to easement, that usually means that when this project is being constructed, the construction crew need a little bit more room to work on the project. And so that's where easement comes in, where we temporarily using your property space for the construction during the time of construction, and then we will revert back to how it was after construction is done. So that's where easement come in. So in terms of whether we have the easement now, no, we do not have the easement currently. And so that's where we have to, as the project and the design moving forward, we want to make sure that we understand what are the impacts to the property owners on Tuckerman Lane. And that way we can determine how much easement we actually need. And our property acquisition team will reach out to you during the final design phase once we have the design kind of finalize a little bit more and refine a little bit more so that we know exactly what we're impacting. And that's the time when they'll reach out to you and they will talk about how much easement we'll actually need. So for the most part, we're keeping our limits of grading within the right of way as much as possible. So hopefully to minimize the impacts to property owner and minimize the easement we will need from property owner. So, and in terms of whether it will cover the full width needed for the project, yes, it will. Okay. Sorry.
Question here about who shovels the snow on the shared use path. This is separate of the sidewalk.
Yes, so it will be the same as the sidewalk, I believe. Correct. Right, Corey? I think so.
Again, I'm not positive. I think shared use paths are viewed slightly differently than sidewalks in the county code.
Dan, do you know?
Yeah, you don't have to shovel the whole width of it. You just have to shovel a walkable width.
Thanks, Dan. All right.
A number of comments pushing back on the need for the bike lanes throughout here. Comment here about, again, lowering the speed along Tuckerman. And that's the last of the comments I see.
Okay. Anyone else? We'll be here.
Oh, I just got another one.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. Just a comment about the right of way. That there may be people who aren't aware of where the right of way line falls within their property.
Okay, so I think I mentioned it before, but on our project website, and I'll pull up the link again. Well, that was too fast. One second. All right. Can everyone see? Yes. Okay. So sorry for the property line, you can go to the project website, which is Montgomery County MD.gov/DOT-DTE/project on Tuckerman Lane. There is a interactive web app where you will be able to look at the GIS property line, and as well as overlay with the current design that we have. And if you need additional help, or if you want to look at it together, you can email me and we can set out a time and go through it together. So send me an email and we'll go through it.
Question about whether the cost for the project is shared across all Montgomery County residents. It may be a Dan question.
Dan?
So yes, there's this is part of the capital improvement projects budget. So it's, yeah, there's no special tax on residents in the project area. It's paid for by everybody.
Okay. Thanks, Dan.
Angel, I think it may be useful. There's a number of comments about how we, how the current plan arrived at its current configuration, to maybe talk through a little bit of the facility planning phase 1 process, and that there were, this process is now essentially just trying to advance the design of the alternative that was selected as part of that process.
Yes. Sorry, what was the first part?
Well, there are a number of comments about how we arrived at the design that you guys are trying to advance at this point, that there's a shared use path and bike lanes and a sidewalk. I think people are asking how we arrived at this.
Yes, so this project came from a facility planning phase 1 project, where the project, MCDOT looked at what can be provided in terms of pedestrian and bicycle facilities for Tuckerman Lane. This was back in, several years ago, and I believe another project manager might have reached out to the community and share a couple of different alternatives with the community, and providing an opportunity for everyone to comment and their feedbacks on the plan. So when at the end of facility planning phase 1, we presented all the alternatives to the planning board as well as the county council, along with all the comments and the feedback from the community. And kind of ultimately, we the county council and the planning board both recommended this particular alternative. If you would like to look at the other alternatives that was proposed back in facility planning phase 1, I believe they're posted on the project website also under project document. There should be a title that says facility planning phase 1 in there, and you can, if you're interested in looking more into it, or talk a little bit more about how it came to be, you can contact me also. So.
Comment here about drivers are speeding on Tuckerman all the time. How do you handle it in this plan by adding so much expansion over the current cross section?
So we will work with our traffic division to look into additional traffic calming measures, as well as identifying crosswalk and where we can put in refuge island to pinch down the travel lane to make sure that people are slowing down, and by installing signage and other things. So we'll work with our traffic division counterparts to make sure those concerns will be addressed, and making sure that we are looking into different ways, various ways to hopefully make this decreasing the travel speed on this roadway, on this part of Tuckerman.
Comment here, these plans appear to use 50 of the 80-foot right-of-way for non-vehicle uses. Bicyclists spread out when grouped and don't stay in a designated lane. Using the space for a specific use seems counterproductive.
Thank you for that comment. We'll take a note of that, and I'm sure we'll look into it.
More comments here about lowering speeds and focusing on the sidewalks. There seems to be a general sentiment of at least the past handful of comments that the bike lanes really aren't needed at this point.
Okay. And we hear you. Thanks for all the comments that you've been putting into the chat, and we'll look into that. Any other questions from anyone or comments from anyone? You can continue to type it into the chats, or if you would like to, voice out your concern, you can also raise your hand. We'll keep this open until 8:30, so feel free. Oh, we have one raised hand. I have unmuted you.
Okay. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi.
Yeah. Hi. I live right on Tuckerman Lane, and Tuckerman Lane is already a busy street. By not having parking lane on the south side, everyone should park on the other side, on north. And passing through, crossing that is very dangerous. Right now it's dangerous. And I think all the concentration was on the bike roads rather than the existing traffic. So especially right now, you see daytime in fall and springtime with school times, it's very, very busy street. So I think if you just a little bit take up from the other side of the parking, like by foot, 1 foot, and a few feet up from the shared area, you can have another parking spot, parking line on the south side. And that will help to reduce the, for example, if the serviceman coming my home, I'm in the south side, or every week the landscaping guy is coming, where they should park. They cannot bring their stuff, lawnmower, everything from other side of the street to this side. Passing by is going to be difficult there. And I see lots of the accidents right. I'm corner of the Coldest Stream and Tuckerman. I see lots of this bad accidents here always. It looks like you are talking about the master plan for the bike roads. Master plan is not a Bible. You can reconsider it, you can change it. It takes time, I know, I understand that, but maybe just one side bike road and two sides parking should look not only standard street is going to be good for this traffic and the parking spots. Most other people backing from the out from their drivers, the driveways, how they go out, especially on the north side. Alongside the parking line, there are lots of cars parked already. Both sides of the cars going the other side. Backing out from the other side is going to be difficult, and from south it's going to be difficult because they're going to hit the bicycle runners, and also the bicycle. I see this Saturday, Sunday, every day. They take all the street. They are not on their line. You give them line, they're going to take all the street on Saturday, Sundays. So I think we need to have parking line on both sides of the street, and by changing a little bit your design, you can have it.
Thank you for your comment.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
A question here about, I guess, can you go back maybe to the corridor map, a question about where section BB and section DD are located along the corridor?
Yes, so section BB is around here. It's west of Post Oak and east of Cold Stream, I believe. And then cross section DD is east from Gainsborough, but west of the Pepco's power line. Yeah.
Question about how people will know the results of what we've looked into.
Yes, so we will update our project website once we reach the 35% design, and we will share the and if you guys can also email me for a specific question so that I make sure that I get back to you. There are a lot of comments and questions tonight, so if you can email me after this, it'll be really, really appreciated, because it'll help me to make sure that I look into it, but also like I already took notes on this, so I will look into it, but to get back to you. I think Yeah, so the project website would be periodically updated with the latest design and the latest news on this project. So you can check that, or you can contact me if you have specific questions, have specific concern that you have regarding this project or regarding Tuckerman Lane in general, and I'll get back to you.
You might mention that there will also be an opportunity to comment to the planning board on the project during the mandatory referral process. So it's not just an opportunity for the planning board to review the project, but also for the community to provide feedback to the planning board as they make a recommendation as to what should move forward.
Yes, thank you for reminding me of that. So like what Corey said, during the mandatory review, the public had a chance to voice their concern again. Also, and you know, even throughout the project, you can share your comments with us, share your feedback with us. But specifically during the mandatory referral, you can tell the planning board, you know, what your feedback on regarding this project, and you know what needs to happen, what are some of the concerns that need to be addressed. So, and those kind of milestone will, you know, in terms of dates and when is that going to happen, will be posted on the website. Right.
A number of comments coming in about how the project will increase traffic along Tuckerman. So just something to note, I think, going forward. Question, I live at the T intersection of Tuckerman and Candlelight. Many accidents happen at that spot when cars are trying to turn left, and as a result of cars behind overpassing them on the shoulder lane very quickly. Also, people who get in or off the bus need to cross the street but don't have a crossing lane. Will that be addressed?
Yes, so we'll look into that this particular intersection. I'll take a note of it, and we'll work with traffic to make sure that what we're proposing, and hopefully, if there we can also look into whether a interim solution will be feasible and safe to implement. So I'll take a note of this location. Candlelight, okay.
Question, when will you have a revised plan? Will there be another meeting like this?
Revised. So I think we will have a revised plan probably by next year. Again, we're at 20% design right now. And once you reach 35% design, we'll share the plans with the community. And we have not planned for another meeting like this, but we can certainly have another one. So, and more will be more detail will come. So.
Question here about the cross section between Falls Road and between section BB.
Oh, Falls Road.
So I think that would be
that one,
the section that falls, yeah, similar to AA. Which,
okay.
I think is the top.
Do you?
Yep, I think you have it there in the top left.
Okay. Again, this presentation will be posted on the website, so you can go back and take a look at it, as well as tonight's meeting will be posted hopefully tomorrow, if not by next Monday the latest. It depends on how long it takes to getting this upload. So, okay.
Question about the proposed limits of disturbance that show up on the web map. Do those correspond to the blue or the red limits of disturbance? I guess, is it associated with the closed section or the open section design?
It's associated with the closed section design.
Clarifying question here, and I know I don't know the answer. Maybe you will, Angel. If there are designated bike lanes, is it still allowable for bicyclists to ride in the motor vehicle lanes instead with no restrictions?
I believe the answer is yes.
Yes, bicycles are vehicles, and so they are allowed to use the lane. And there's several comments in here about, bicycle groups typically will take up the lane itself, and the bike lanes are for more of a single user being able to traverse more comfortably in an isolated bike lane as opposed to traveling in the roadway itself.
Thanks, Mark. Anyone else have any questions or comments that you would like to share?
Let's see, more comments about, just the appropriate use of the space, safety at Deborah. So obviously that's an intersection that I think we're going to want to look at going forward. People opposed to the design because they feel it will increase traffic.
Oh, I got a raised hand. Kathleen, I have unmuted you. Whoop. Let's try this again. Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Oof.
So I'm sorry. So there's more people moving into the neighborhood, especially, primarily right now it's at Cabin John. They're putting up all those townhouses. Is there any estimated increase in number of people living around Tuckerman Lane, increased volume on on Tuckerman Lane Road itself?
It's a main thoroughfare.
We don't have a number on that in particular.
I think that's very important, especially since funding and action on this project is up against everybody else in the county.
Yes, so we'll look into that, but we don't have the number right now. So
thanks.
Yep, thank you.
Question: Can the crosswalk on the northwest corner of Tuckerman and Seven Locks be improved?
Yes, so let me write that one down, and we'll work with the traffic division on this particular for this particular common crosswalk on the northwest corner of Tuckerman and 7 Lock. Okay. Is there anything specific in terms of improvement?
Just says walking from Deborah to Cabin John Mall. The walk to the pedestrian island is dangerous due to limited visibility of cars turning right into Tuckerman from 7 Locks. Okay. So it sounds like it's a sight line, visibility, maybe geometric issue.
Okay. All right. Anything else? 10 minutes, sorry.
Just a number of comments about disagreement over the elimination of the parking on one side and focused on pedestrian. So focused on the sidewalks. So I'm reading a number of comments that the project's moving forward without approval from the community. So the reason that the meeting is being held tonight is to get feedback on the design before it gets to the 35% milestone. So we are looking to incorporate the feedback that we're hearing tonight and that Angel will get over, the next coming weeks and months as the project advances in design. In terms of the project moving forward from a funding perspective, that's really a council decision. We'll take the project to the planning board at the 35% design milestone. They will have an opportunity to provide feedback, and then all of that feedback will be taken to council as part of the budget process. And that's the point where they make a decision about whether the project should move forward or if any changes should be made to it.
Yeah.
Question about, I think this is probably to the width of the parking lanes. Will the parking lane accommodate those who swing the doors open? Will it reach into the traffic lane?
I think the 8-foot wide parking is the standard so that driver can safely get out, but I don't think it will accommodate with the whole door open. I don't believe so. Maybe Dan, do you know?
Yes, well, this is Dan Sheridan. A parked car would swing, the door would swing open another couple feet probably. That was Jack Cochran's comment about the bike lane. So we have bike lanes next to that. So that's the concern there, is that it would swing into the bike lane and not the travel lane. And Jack Cochran's comment was to widen the bike lane by half a foot on that side where there's parking and reduce it by half a foot on the other side where there's not.
Thank you, Dan.
Question, why does the project end at 7 Locks rather than continuing to Cabin John Regional Park?
So at the end of phase 1 planning, this project was segmented into 4 different segments just so that it's a fundable project. The whole project was way too expensive for county council to fund the whole project. So instead of waiting for funding to come for this project to be to move forward, they have decided to breaking into different four different segments in order to make it a little bit more easier to implement. And so and they have picked this particular segment to move forward first because it's close to schools and it's a primarily a residential area, and they believe that this is an important piece that should move forward first. So, and so with that said, the rest will be soon coming after this piece. We'll continue to work on this. So.
Question about us looking further into the elimination of the bike lanes. and whether the project could go forward with re-examining parking on both sides and providing just pedestrian facilities and keeping the cyclists in road.
So we can look into that. Again, the reason why we're doing this public meeting tonight is we want to hear from you. So again, please share with us your feedback, and we'll collect them we'll collect them all from the community, and we'll look into it as a community why. And again, if you can fill out, let me go back to that slide with my again, if you can fill out that online comment form, it will be very helpful to us to kind of consolidate all these comments at one places, so that we know where what the community is, what they're feeling about this whole project, whether there are things that they would like to see change, whether there are pieces that they don't agree with, or pieces that they would love to see move forward. So please, share your feedback with us, and this is where we really need your help. And keep them coming, and fill out the form online. You can email me. You can just share them. So even after tonight's meeting, you can share with us. Anna, you're raising your hand? Oh, there's a function on on Zoom that you can visually not have to. But yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. Hi. Hi. Thank you so much for doing this. I have a question. I was told like about 4 years ago from one of your members in your office, told us that they were probably planning in building a temporary sidewalk, like the ones that are like a rough blacktop, just for the kids who come out or come in from Churchill High School to Cabin John. That was basically like a temporary emergency sidewalk, so that they are not, they usually, I have seen a lot of kids walking on that side of the lane where the school is and Cabin John. That side, that area needs like a temporary sidewalk for them to walk, because there are a lot of cars driving fast during the school hours. Yeah, so I'm not aware. Obviously, you were talking to someone else a couple of years back. So I'll look into it and see what can be done for that stretch. You said from Churchill to Cabin John? Yes. Okay, so I'm assuming it's on the north side of Tuckerman? Yes, it's on the side where the school is and Cabin John Center. Not the other side, but this side, which is I guess the odd side. Okay. The odd number. So yeah, okay. So I'll look into it and see if there's any interim solution we can do in the meantime while we wait for the rest of the project to move forward. So let me jot it down, and thank you for your comments, and thank you for raising your hand. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. All right.
Question here, are there things that can be included in the plan to help encourage drivers to follow the law and not park too close to intersections? It can be challenging to turn from some of the side streets because you can't see past the parked cars. Yes, so that's part of the challenge that we have on this road is when cars are parked on Tuckerman, it's difficult for side street to pull up. So we'll work with our team here who will look at the site distance and determine where the car needs to be parked, or where they can park too close to the intersection, and add an additional signage so that it's clearly marked
and everyone will see it where they're supposed to park or where they're not supposed to park too close to the intersection. So we'll look into that.
Question, can you explain the shared use path? It is 10 feet wide. Besides walkers, what is this path designed for?
Yeah, so it's called shared use path because it is, it can be used, be shared between pedestrian and a cyclist in the same space. And so, whoever is using this path is supposed to, be courteous to each other and share the space with each other. So when people are going opposite direction or passing each other, they will exercise caution themselves so that everyone can be safe. So it's all about looking out for each other, whether you're walking on the path or biking on the path. So it's designed for both pedestrian and cyclists. Okay, so last call, it is 8:30 right now. Share your last thought in the chat or your question in the chat. And we thank you again for joining us tonight. Again, we'll be posting this on the project website, the presentation itself, as well as tonight's recording. And please go fill out the online comment form or email me your comments or your feedback on this project. And we look forward to hear from you. And if you have any question at any given time, feel free to contact me, email me, and we thank you again. All right. Yay! I think that's it, Corey.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Right. Thank you, everyone, again. All right, I'm going to end the meeting. Oops. Thanks. Bye. Corey, did you save the chat?
I did. I've saved it multiple times because people keep.
Okay,
so
on.
I am going to save it one last time. Confirm that it's in the folder before you close the meeting out.
Yeah, I'm just waiting right now.
Let's see. Yes, it looks like I've got everything.
Okay, cool. All right. Okay.
Good job.
Thank you. All right, I'll talk to you later.
All right.
Bye.